I am a researcher for a government-funded geological institute. No, I am not going to name the organization. Let's just say it is a reputable one. I worked for them, doing some pretty high-level research. I've been with them for a while now, well, used to be. Not anymore, but I'll get to that later. Most people know me for two things: my size and my competence. I'm a big guy. I'm decently muscular, but not bodybuilder level. It's enough to intimidate people if they don't know me too well. I've got a loud voice too, which I'm sure adds to that perception. The thing is, I'm not all just muscle. I know my stuff when it comes to geology. I've got years of experience, tons of knowledge, and enough fieldwork under my belt to earn the respect of my colleagues. They might not say it outright, but they knew I wasn't just some meathead. This is just to give you a picture of me, and why my reactions on this project really mean something. It's not to plump my ego and try to big myself up to strangers. There is one project, one trip, a big one, that has given me a reputation for all the wrong reasons. I would even go as far to say as it ruined my life. Let me tell you all about it. About a year ago, we launched an expedition to the Antarctic. It was supposed to be routine. We were looking for something simple, a certain type of mineral deposit, an anomaly that had been detected by satellites. Nothing out of the ordinary. A standard search and collect operation. 10 of us went, 7 researchers, 2 engineers, and a pilot. We set up camp in the middle of nowhere. It was just miles of ice and snow in every direction. There were no animals, no people, not a damn thing around except the harsh, freezing winds. You've got to understand, the Antarctic is a brutal place, and it is easy to forget how harsh it can be. The ice feels like it is pressing down on you. Everything is so quiet out there, it is unnatural. The first couple of days, everything was going fine. We were setting up the equipment, taking samples, running the standard procedures, mostly gravimetric readings and magnometer sweeps to pinpoint subsurface density shifts. We were looking for anything that could justify the satellite's flagged anomaly. We ran core drills at 3 locations, hoping for ultramafic traces. At that point, it was all textbook. But after a while, things started to feel off. It wasn't the usual discomfort you get from working in extreme conditions. It was more like something else was wrong. One of the engineers, Jimmy, was the first to notice something strange. We'd done GPR scans. Nothing showed up. But Jimmy was not talking about readings. He said it felt wrong when we walked on it. Bounce, maybe. As if the ice was not connected to anything solid. He even dropped a sledge to listen. He swore the echo sounded off. He claimed the ground was not right. It felt hollow to him, like there was something beneath the surface. We all left it off at first. He was tired, stressed, and maybe even a little paranoid. The guy had been in some rough places before, so we did not think much of it. But when you're out there, when you're that isolated, those little things start to matter. By the 4th day, things really started getting weird. The equipment started acting up. It was small stuff at first. Lasers not calibrating right, sensors reading off, things we could not explain. We had double-checked everything before setting up, so it didn't make sense. It wasn't just mechanical failure. It felt like something was intentionally screwing with us, but I was still focused on the mission. The samples, the data, and the report. We had work to do, and that is what mattered. We could get through everything else just fine. Then came the storm. It wasn't a massive one, just a few hours of heavy snow and winds. But in that time, the temperature dropped so quickly, it was like we had been plunged into a freezer. When it cleared up, we tried to go out and check the equipment. That is when we realized something was not right. One of the tents had been shifted. It was only about 10 feet from where we had originally set it up, but it had been moved. Let me tell you, this was not done by the wind. It was way too heavy for that. The way that they are set up and hunkered down is designed to outlast any kind of weather. It would be really silly if a bit of wind could blow away all of our hard work and ruin a mission just like that. I don't know what happened, but when I looked at it, it did not feel like it was just nature messing with us anymore. It felt like something or someone had been around, but I could not really form the words to explain why I felt that way. We did not think much of it at the time. Maybe the storm had shifted the guy lines or something. Incredibly unlikely, but it was our best guess. But we could not shake the feeling that something had gone wrong. We decided to move to another location to get some more samples, but the weirdness did not stop. The further we got into the ice, the more things went wrong. The storm and the isolation were bad enough, but it was the silence that did it. Complete silence. You can't imagine how unnerving it is until you're out there. There is no animal life, no sounds at all, except for your own breath and footsteps. I'm getting ahead of myself though. The real problem came on the 6th day. One of the team members went missing, Alan. He'd gone out to collect some samples by himself, and when he did not return, we assume he had maybe got himself lost and turned around. It wasn't uncommon for someone to get disoriented out there. The landscape does not change and the snow covers everything. But when we went looking for him, we could not find anything. No tracks, no sign of him at all. It was like he had just disappeared. It was a big mistake on our part, really. A rookie error because we were too cocky or deep into our work, or I don't even know. It's protocol to never carry anything out alone in case of emergencies. But the place he was going to was so close by, we did not think anything of it. We did not even give it a second thought, which is so strange for us. That is when things really started to fall apart. I was still trying to keep everyone together and trying my best to stay as professional as possible. But deep down, I knew we were in over our heads. We were stranded out there, and the longer we stayed, the less likely it seemed that we were going to make it back alive. Part of me wishes I had not found Alan. If we had not gone out looking for him that night, maybe I would have been able to pretend it was all just bad luck. But we found him. Or rather, we found what was left of him. It wasn't far from camp. He was lying face down in the snow, arms spread out like he had just collapsed on the spot. But that was not what was strange. What got to me was the blood. There was so much of it. It had frozen in the snow, thick and dark. But what really made it horrifying was his body. His parka had been peeled back cleanly, zipper undamaged. His organs weren't scattered. They were missing, removed intentionally, but his boots were still laced tight. No struggle, no attempt to run. He had been torn apart, not by animals, not by anything natural out here. His body was cut open, like someone had taken a sharp instrument to his body and done things that I can't even describe. The worst part, his face was still recognizable. He looked terrified, an expression of fear that I could never have the words to accurately describe. It fucked us all up seeing that. I don't know what happened to Alan. I don't know what killed him, but I do know this. Whatever it was, it's still out there. I don't even know what could do that and could survive in this climate. The days blurred together after that. The cold became unbearable, and the isolation took a toll on everyone. It felt like the world had turned against us. I kept telling myself it was just the stress, the fatigue. The mind plays tricks in these conditions, I thought. But deep down, I knew we were not just dealing with weather or technical issues anymore. Something else was out there, something we could not explain. By day 7, we were down to 4. I was one of them. The rest had either disappeared or, well, I am not sure what happened to them. They had either run off or something had taken them, but there was no trace left, not even a body. At some point, The snow had covered everything, but the weird part was the way the snow fell. It wasn't natural. It wasn't just a storm. It was like the snow was deliberately hiding things. We started looking for any signs of life, something that would explain what had happened. We found more tracks, but they did not make any sense. They weren't human tracks. Not fully, at least. They were too wide and too deep. It was as if something heavy had been walking around, and they weren't going in any direction. They just appeared, as if they had been placed there. No one could explain it, but we all felt it. Something was moving around us, close by. That night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside the tent. The others heard it too. We grabbed whatever gear we had left and waited, but when we went outside, there was nothing. Just the cold, quiet air, and more tracks leading out into the snow. We did not sleep after that. We set up IR sensors from our emergency perimeter kit, basic motion detection grid. Just before midnight, every sensor lit up at once, a full perimeter breach, 360 degrees. But when we opened the tent, the snow was untouched. We kept watch in shifts, terrified that whatever was out there would come for us next. But the thing that got to me was not the terror. Again, it was the silence. The entire place felt wrong. Even the wind had stopped. By the 9th day, we were all on edge. The tension had completely cracked. Our communication systems had stopped working completely by day 2, and we had a pre-scheduled date that we would be picked up on. We basically had no choice, just to wait for it. I had no idea what was out there, what had been picking us off one by one, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut that if I stayed, I would not be leaving either. Then, just before the 10th day, something happened that pushed me over the edge. I was alone in the observation tent, checking over some equipment, when I heard something moving behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing. I looked outside, still nothing. But then I felt it. Something watching me. I can't explain it, but it was like the air itself was pressing in on me, like whatever it was had somehow gotten closer. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I could not move. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place, but eventually I snapped out of it. The others were not in the camp. I don't know where they went or why they left, but they were gone. All of them. That is when I made the decision to leave on my own without waiting for them. To go to the extraction myself and just go home. I did not want to risk my life anymore, especially not to try and find them. I packed what I could and tried to make my way back to the LZ, hoping the chopper could still get in. But the storm had gotten worse. The winds were unrelenting and the cold was unbearable. I was losing track of time, stumbling through the snow, not sure if I was even heading in the right direction. The radio, of course, was still dead. I was so lucky that we were being picked up on a predetermined schedule. Otherwise, I would have died from the cold or the confusion. I was completely alone. I remember the sound of something really close by, something massive. Sounded like it was following me. The crunch of snow under heavy footsteps. It was just behind me, too close for comfort. I did not dare look back. I ran faster, knowing I could not outrun whatever it was. But somehow, I found the landing zone. The helicopter was already waiting, thank fucking God. I don't know how, but I was able to get on and make it out. I was hysterical. They kept asking me where everyone else was, what happened to them, where was the rest of our equipment, our logbooks and readings, etc. All I could get out of my mouth was, "Please go, we need to leave, please," again and again. They thought I had completely lost it. I was flown back to a base nearby. They gave me time to decompress, to process. In the meantime, they sent a team to find the rest of the people I was with. I was interrogated essentially. I told them exactly what happened, exactly as I told it to you, exactly what I saw and felt. I must have told the same story with the same details 20 different times to 20 different people, each of them thinking I just lost it due to the temperature and other factors. They told me that it was not possible for anything to be out there and that I was a moron, that I had wasted time and resources and that I had fucked everything up, that they did not care about whatever petty squabble caused the group to split up. They just wanted the fucking data. I was scolded and berated, and even when no one else was found, I was called a schizophrenic idiot and given the boot. And that was basically my reputation in tatters for the rest of my career. You'll laugh, but I work in a shitty gas station now. I lean on alcohol to just keep me functioning, and I can barely hold down a job anymore. Only really leave the house for work. Just sit inside, browsing this shithole of a board. I never saw what was chasing me, but I know it was real. I know it was not just my mind playing tricks on me. I don't care how crazy it sounds. And those fucks at my company can go fuck themselves. Go do the research yourself, you assholes, and find out what happens. I honestly can't tell whether they are genuinely stupid or whether they discredited me on purpose. I would not put anything past them. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you do and you want to hear more, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below, as it lets the algorithm know that you like my content and it promotes it to more people. My goal for the channel is to hit 50,000 subscribers, and we're closing in fast, so thank you, and back to the stories. I have posted about this before, and to this day, cannot explain it. Be like 5 years old or some shit. Had this antique rocking chair in my room that always creeped me out because it looked like it had an evil face carved into it. Go to bed, have dream. Fades in from black, starts out at the other end of the house. I am tied down to a levitating slab of bricks. Starts moving forward, slowly making its way towards my room. Get to room, and it stops in front of the rocking chair. Look towards my bed. See 2 children, a little boy and girl, dressed in white colonial/Victorian era clothes, playing chess on the floor next to my bed. They said something to me, and I said something back, but I have never been able to recall what either of us said. Slab of bricks suddenly launches towards the rocking chair. Chair becomes impossibly large, and now takes up my entire field of vision. The face on it comes to life, and starts doing an evil laugh. Its mouth is filled with fire. Go into mouth. Dream switches view. I am now looking at myself from the side, like a 2D platformer. Eventually hit the bottom. Wake up covered in sweat on the living room couch. I have no idea how I wound up on the couch. It would not make any sense for my parents to move me from my room to the couch, and I have never been known to sleepwalk. Maybe I shifted into a different reality. Maybe a spooky carried me to the couch. Either way, it still gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Give me your night shift stories. Weird shit you saw on security cams. Weird motherfuckers who showed up in the gas station you work at. Creepy hospital shit, whatever. Spoopy army story. Stationed in Korea. Little no-name base. Mostly unmanned, except for some kind of seismology outpost, and a few soldiers doing who knows what. Aviation support or something. Small MR, military police force, but largely a formality, as this place is fucking Mayberry, and there are not enough people to get into any trouble. On the base are these little hills that dot the post here and there. These are graves of soldiers killed in the Korean conflict. They were essentially buried where they fell in some areas. Anyway, enough setup. Each shift, we need to do a walking patrol. Is the highlight of my shift because being crammed in a car all day blows. Start mine at about 2 AM, because once curfew starts, people on base get into stupid shit, and now it's my problem. Walking past a cluster of graves. See some guy. He looks back at me and ducks behind one of the mounds. Hey, military police, come out where I can see you. No answer. Assume it's some people fucking or something, and they are just ignoring me. Go around the back of the mounds. Nothing but shortcut parade field, an area the size of a soccer field, literally impossible to hide in. Radio the station. Men, this is B110. I am out at the gravesites with a subject who has fled on foot. Will advise once I find him. No answer. Whatever. Radio guy is a lazy shit. Keep looking around, but there is nothing to look at. Feel like I am being watched. Radio comes on again. All units, check radios, hot mic. A hot mic is someone transmitting without being aware, leaning on the button by accident or something. At this point, my something is fucked up senses are tingling, so I perform a cursory look all around the area and get the fuck out, back to the station. Desk sergeant is pissed because he thinks I was the one hot micing. All radio traffic records on our computer, so we play back my calls. Mostly white noise. At one point, you hear me say I'm on scene, followed by more white noise. We turn up the volume. Some of it is hard to hear, but some of it is surprisingly audible. Sergeant Long, more rounds, more water. In the tree line, there. Clear as a fucking bell. Was not supposed to be like this. Bricks are shot. Sergeant tells me and the radio guy not to mention this to anyone, to not tell anyone what we heard. Next day, we have an order not to go near the burial mounds, like I had to be told. Anyway, that is my weird night shift story. Since we are on the topic of scouts and camping, I have a kind of spooky but not supernatural story from when I went camping as a kid. I was going camping with my uncle's family and some friends. It was me, their son and daughter, my cousins obviously, and two mutual friends of school, all of us aged 10 to 14 years old. The plan was to stay for a week over the summer, but things got called short after a couple of days. I mostly hated the idea, but my parents wanted me to get some fresh air. We got up in the mountains. My allergies were killing me. I was covered in mosquito bites, and frankly, I would rather be playing Diamond and Pearl at home. That tells you just how old this story is. We spend the day hiking and stop at a campsite to set up the tents. The girl with my aunt and uncle and all of the boys together. None of us can sleep, so we just flare up our flashlights and talk about bullshit for a few hours until we finally wear ourselves out. Topic comes to scary stories, and my cousin tells us a doozy. Apparently, the town nearby had a killer that disappeared in these woods a few years ago. He tells us he was a disgruntled husband who had to work 2 jobs to support his family. He apparently got fired and came home to see his wife cheating on him with some dude. He snaps and grabs an axe from outside, kills his wife, the guy she was cheating on him with, and their 5 kids before vanishing into the woods. He tells us that he is still running around the mountains, killing any woman or kid that he sees. It was a creepy story, but all of us, I think, knew it was bullshit. We eventually tire ourselves out, talking about whatever dumb shit kids like, and go to sleep. Next day rolls around, and we start hiking again. My aunt and uncle stopped to film shit or something. I think they were into making wildlife/nature videos as a hobby or something like that. I can't remember. All of us just kinda wander off while they are filming, because kids are stupid. Little cousin says she needs to pee. Tell her to just go find a bush, and she walks off. About 30 seconds later, we all hear a scream. We go to find her, and see she is running away from something after pissing herself. We go look where she was running from, to see what got her so spooked. See an old ass fallen tree, laying on top of what looked like a human skeleton, holding an axe. Trip ends for obvious reasons, and we all go back home that night. 99% sure that skeleton was unrelated to the bullshit story my cousin told me, but still, I remember that standing out to me when I was a kid. Work at an outdoor bar, one of those kitschy ones that's supposed to feel like the beach. Huge space. The bar is all the way at the back for some reason. One night, closing. The last thing I have to do is shut off the lights. This makes the walk to the entrance/exit kinda spooky. It is always in near total darkness. The only visibility comes from the streetlight by the front gate. As I am walking out, I see a person standing between me and the front gate. Fuck, it's a jogger. Motherfucker looks huge. You're a big guy. I sincerely think I'm about to get twisted into a pretzel and robbed, or maybe even shot. Are you there, God? It's me, Anon. God hears my prayer. The shape dissipates with a weird buzzing noise. Not disappears. It scatters into a million pieces that look like bits of paper scattering in the wind. Buzzing sound hangs in the air for a moment, and then everything is quiet. Run the fuck out and swear not to work a closing shift ever again. Did I have an encounter with Beelzebub? I was camping in Colorado once with a group of friends. There were about 6 of us. We set up camp in a sweet rock outcrop where there were 3 large boulders leaning against each other with a hole at the top and enough room to sit underneath. This was during a fire ban, so it was the perfect place to put our campfire. We set up the tent not far off. Middle of the night comes and we are running out of firewood. We remember a campsite nearby that had nobody there during the day and plenty of wood, but we had been hearing voices all evening, just talking, nothing strange, and assumed it was that campsite nearby, so we walked over to ask if we could borrow some wood and chop some more to return it in the next morning. The campsite was still completely empty at night. There was a jeep there, and we figured the campers may have gotten stuck while four-wheeling during the day and were sleeping in their vehicle, so we grabbed some firewood with the intent to replace it in the next morning and walked back to camp. There were no other campsites that we saw nearby when hiking earlier in the day, so we were discussing on the way back where the voices were coming from. But we just figured we just missed another nearby camp. Anyway, we are back at camp and winding down. Me and one buddy taking shifts, keeping the fire going and chatting a little and dozing off, and the rest of our group had headed to the tent and started sleeping, and we started hearing what we figured were coyotes or foxes. They can make weird guttural screams that sound like people, but we kept hearing footsteps around the camp, mostly gravel, and going out of our cave to check, making sure no coyotes were in the camp, and never saw anything. Weird screaming persisted all night. Next day comes around, and we replace the wood at the empty nearby campsite, pack up, and get ready to leave after our morning hike. It was a difficult four-wheel trail to get out, and one of my buddies got stuck on an incline and slid back. We started trying to dig him out, and I, being at the top of the incline, but in a vehicle that would not help, drove up the trail to find nearby campsites and see if someone had a rig with a winch that could go quicker. I approached probably 15 campsites along the trails over a couple of hours, every one of them completely empty and abandoned. The entire area had no human life at all. Generators, trucks, jeeps, all just left at the campsite in the middle of the day. No luck, so went back to the site my buddy was stuck, and we get him dug out middle of afternoon and start to leave. The entire area on the way out was still completely abandoned. Tons of camps near the trailhead, and literally nobody at any of the campsites at all. It became really eerie, and we were trying to figure out if what we had heard the night before was actually coyotes or what, or if it was something else. Anyway, few days later, and some bodies appear in the area in the local news. Said they had died from unknown causes. There were about 4 over the entire area that we were camping in. No idea if the screams we heard were people or not, and no idea where the talking was coming from to this day. Not super scary, but eerie enough.